I think markets are always quite tricky um, because as you start out, no one really knows what you're growing or how you're growing it, and what are your logistics or infrastructure for how you are hoping to sell it to these specific vendors or markets that you're looking at. A lot of it is cold calling, having some sort of really quick pitch around your mission and vision of your operation, and a list of all of your product that you're hoping to grow or already growing, along with prices and packing standards that sometimes vary depending on who you sell it to and how you plan to like sell it to them. For example, I can give you a perfect example of what that statement might look like. Is we sell to several restaurants, and our restaurants will normally go by just pounds, right? Whereas when we go to a wholesaler or a nonprofit that normally buys at wholesale, they normally go by packing standards. So, for example, tomatoes, cherry tomatoes normally go in, strawberry baskets in a flat, and there's normally 12, strawberry baskets that go in one flat, and so you normally sell them all by the flat. And so when you have to sort of pivot between your two markets, it can be difficult to really know the true costs. And I think that's where it can be challenging if you don't know your true costs of production. You may be selling it for a lot lower and not covering your costs, both from your fixed costs and as well as the be able to turn some sort of profit off of your product as well. So I think really knowing and understanding that before you reach out to a lot of your vendors, with the caveat of really understanding how they might function, could be a really useful and helpful sort of starting point in your sort of journey of selling your product. And that was something that we had to learn the harder way. And I think we're still learning it the harder way of like understanding how things are being packed on a wholesale, and shifting and understanding what the pricings will also look like as we give out pricings and don't match with what they're looking in order for them to purchase your product. So it's a learning experience, but I think it's one that you can also pick up by speaking to other farmers, speaking to other vendors, looking at prices both from several outlets that are available out there, which are very few to be quite honest. But you can get availability lists from several of the wholesalers to kind of get an idea of what those costs might look like and what sort of the packing standard might look like as well for several of those crops. Because I know that there are different types of standards for different packaging. So just be mindful that when you're looking at them, you also understand them and also ask questions when there is uncertainty around what that might look like, both to your producer peers, but also to your vendors, and asking clarity. So those are the sort of ones that I would give off the bat. We've started to dabble in direct consumer, and we've noticed that there is a significant larger shift in income. Even though we just started, we have seen that there is a higher price point that we would love to sort of navigate a little bit more. And I think for us, we're beginning to start to understand the diversification of our market channels, which is something that we should have been doing from the very start, but are now coming around in our third year, really understanding that maybe farmers markets, farm stands, U-picks, or even agro-tourism can be very profitable in being able to expand your marketing of your product, your mission and vision of your farm, and for more interest to be sort of shared around what you're doing at your farm, and also free marketing that a lot of other individuals who come and experience your production, your farm, are doing it for you for free by sharing it out on their social medias, talking to their peers and friends and families around your farm, and also letting folks know around like that you exist. And so that, I think, is the biggest key in getting more outreach out to your community members and your region around the work that you're doing. And so that can be very beneficial. But if you're strapped for time and sometimes don't have the capacity to be at markets, or because of ordinances due to your county or city to do farm stands or U-picks, the other options are doing wholesale and working with several nonprofits who normally purchase product from small-scale producers that can be beneficial for you to kind of dabble in the larger wholesale sort of market. Even though sometimes the nonprofit world can shift and pivot a little bit outside of what the wholesale standards may look like, it's at least an idea of like what that could potentially look like as you begin to like explore that into like the larger markets of wholesale, like the veritable vegetables, the herbal organics, and et cetera, right? And so I would start with smaller wholesalers that are willing to work with you to kind of just understand the ins and outs, and also get you prepared to get the certifications that you may need in order to sell to other larger markets, like your food safety, getting insurance, liability, and also if you are looking to get certified organic or any other sort of certifications that may be beneficial to your business, to sell it at a higher price point. So those are sort of the things that we've navigated and understood. It hasn't been easy to do, and it's a constant shifting and pivoting as markets shrink or get lost, because as vendors and buyers out there, they also go out of business, and so you're having to pivot on a yearly basis. And also, a lot of the times, the nonprofit world normally has funding for a lot of this, such as food banks, like the LFPA, or any sort of other initiatives. That funding can also dry, so you have to be nimble and willing to like pivot quickly enough to really understand what other opportunities you may have to sell your product, either that same year or the next year, depending on where they're at in their cycles. So those have been sort of the caveats that I can give. Biggest one, once again, is just like understanding your cost of production, and also just being prepared with like your crop planning, your pricings, your availability sheets, which is something that we're still very much so trying to get better at doing. We're not perfect, and we're hoping to dial that in so that we can have all of our vendors in one location and just send a mass email or text to several of our vendors with the same availability sheet that offers all of our offerings and pricing and packing standards that we are sort of working with. But on top of that, really understanding logistics and infrastructure, like where are you at in your journey as your business, because some of us don't have cold storage or have a box truck or a van of any sort to move a pallet or several boxes to a specific location, whether it be a faraway city or somewhere that might be outside of your region, if that is the case of your farm. So just really being honest with yourself around, can I do this? Do I have the time? And do I have the infrastructure to be able to accomplish what I'm hoping with selling my product to these vendors. And so those are really the big ones. Always advocate for yourself and your price. And yeah, I mean, if you sell it at a lower price, you're doing a disservice to several of us farmers, primarily small growers, by selling your crop at a lower cost, because then that is what is considered could flood a market, but also can also create a price setting that is not necessarily reflective of what other growers are willing and capable of selling the product to as well. So being mindful